Hey mamas, welcome to Breastfeeding Relief with Bethany. We share incredible stories, tips, and breastfeeding ideas to help on your journey. I'm your host, Bethany Laverne, a lactation consultant and speech therapist who helps mamas with breastfeeding. Not all breastfeeding stories are the same, and we dive into those topics. Welcome to another episode of Breastfeeding Relief with Bethany. Today we have Ashley from Iron 31. We're so excited to have you today.
Yes, I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much for having me on the show today.
Absolutely. So today we aren't really going to talk about breastfeeding, ladies, but I want Ashley to go ahead and introduce herself and tell us about why she started her company.
Yeah, I am Ashley Rumke, and Bethany and I were just talking on the call prior to this of I was on the way home and I had mentioned Bethany to my husband, like, your cousin Bethany. And he was like, babe, she's not my cousin. I'm like, are you serious? Just because his mom and your mom are so close, I just kind of consider you one of his cousins. So anyway, that's kind of how we have connected. And I'm so grateful that we have. You've been such a mentor to me and like starting my own podcast and getting that going. I remember meeting you at my sister-in-law's graduation and us talking about it. You were just so encouraging. But I own a company with my husband called Iron 31, and this has been a dream of mine since 2019. So long story short, I was a second grade teacher, went to college for elementary education for 4 years. Just I got a bachelor's, then I taught for 3 years. This was a while ago, so sometimes I get the math mixed up. Taught for 3 years, and then after 3 years of teaching, I'm just like, man, I feel like there is another avenue of teaching that I'm supposed to do, and love being in the classroom. But there was just an avenue that I fell in love with that I couldn't bring into the classroom. And that was my own personal growth journey. And at the time when I was teaching, was going through a lot of hardship. So I fell in love with fitness. And that was kind of my avenue of like, I couldn't control anything else in my life. So I fell in love with fitness. But within my fitness journey, I fell in love with the Lord. And so it was such an incredible, just walk of just seeing like how tragedy took me to something that I could control, but then the Lord showed up and met me right where I was. And just seeing how the Lord worked in my heart, I became on fire for the Lord, and just how he was molding my life, how he was changing aspects of my life that I didn't even want changed. But then seeing the fruit from that has just led me to a passion to come alongside women on their womanhood and meet them in their trials, meet them in the harder parts of womanhood, but also meet them in their joys. And what I found throughout my walk is that every action that I've taken usually has a root or stems from something. And I love helping women dig to that root. And that's what Iron 31 is all about, is helping women get to that root, teaching them about how to apply the Bible to their lives, to their womanhood. Because I think there's so much noise out there right now. We can go to social media, we can go to movies, we can go to all of these things and kind of gather what is normal in the world, or we may be like looking for advice without even realize that we are. But going to the Bible has led me to avenues in my life that I've never even expected. And it's been a hard walk. It's not been an easy walk, but Iron 31 is meant to meet women where they are at and take them along this journey at all times, pointing them to Jesus. And just to kind of go into the meaning of Iron 31, iron is iron sharpens iron, because I've had my own sharpening and still am being sharpened. And just that, the metal against metal of always refining yourself. So as women are sharpening themselves, I want them to then go out and sharpen others as they refine their own journey. And then 31 is Proverbs 31 woman. So in the book of Proverbs, chapter 31 is all about the Proverbs 31 woman. And we can get really intimidated by that verse, but I think every woman has their own version of a Proverbs 31 women, and they have their own design. And our company is meant to truly help women meet them where they're at, but then walk them into what their truest design that the Lord gave them is. So that is who I am. Have had a long journey. I've been in all kinds of different careers that's led me to this place, from elementary teaching to a fitness trainer to nutrition coach to ministry, back to nutrition coach. It has been a wild ride, but the Lord has met me where I am all along the way. So very grateful for it.
Oh, that's so awesome. So I love how you specifically talk about community. And so I want to start off first with your husband. So we grew up together. Our moms were best of
Mhm.
friends. We had this awesome
Yes.
community. I really felt like I was raised by a community, not just by my parents, which was so lovely because there was some tragedy in my life when I was little. We don't need to go into that there. But I needed other moms in my life when I was little. And so his mom, Julie, I consider one of my moms, and I send her Mother's Day card every year. Like, that's how much I love her.
Oh.
There's another mom that I also send her Mother's Day card, and I always put like mom number two, like I'll like write in it, Happy Mom's Day number two. So
Oh, that is so sweet.
yeah. They mean the world to me. And at any point in time, I can pick up the phone and be like, hey, I'm struggling with this. Like, what do you think, or what do you have? And
Mhm.
especially his mom, Julie, like she'll like listen to you, and then she always asks
Yeah.
to like pray over you. And I just love
Yeah,
that we go to the Lord in prayer about like,
absolutely.
what's going on in our life. It's something I super love about our relationship with her. But with that being said, so with these moms that I'm talking to, especially with breastfeeding, when you're in that fourth trimester, I know I felt so lonely going into that fourth trimester because you go, or at least I went from a corporate job. I was a manager of 60 therapists in nursing homes. And then I lost it all overnight. And in a good way. We got our son. It was amazing, but my phone stopped ringing. No emails were coming in. And it was like the house was quiet and I had no problems to solve. I just had a son to feed, which was amazing. But you also, like, you have a different need. But I felt like I personally really struggled with that of like, what do I do now? And I'd always wanted to be a mom. And so now I'm staying home full time, which we hadn't told work, so I could get my FMLA.
Yep.
And so I was like, oh no, is this really what I want to do? Like, is this really where I want to be? Because I felt so alone. My husband would go to work. He worked a 9 to 5, but then also he worked in sports. So there was at times he would leave at 9 o'clock in the morning. He wouldn't be home until 10, 11 midnight. And so it was just me and my son, who doesn't talk back yet. And so I just felt so lonely. So I feel like the best community for me at that time was to join a breastfeeding support group. And
Yeah.
it's all these other moms that come together. They're usually free. Look them up in your community. Some of them cost maybe a few dollars, but it's so lovely to meet other moms in the same point in time you are and to also share your burdens with them. And they're like, it's okay. That's called the 4 month sleep regression. You're like, oh, thank God. I thought I was losing my mind.
Yes.
And so I think that's so lovely. But, after we get out of that breastfeeding stage, usually most of us breastfeed for like a year, sometimes 2 years. But even if you're breastfeeding for 2 years, you aren't going to go to a lactation class for 2 years because you don't need it. You don't need the help. And you got a toddler moving around. No one wants your toddler moving around when everyone's holding this brand new babe. Please don't cough on me. Like, not all the germs, right? And so you're welcome, but you aren't welcome. So
Yes.
you need to move on. And so why I really brought Ashley on today was after we're done with our lactation journey, let's talk about community, and this community that you are offering these mamas.
Yeah, I would absolutely love to. It just brings me joy every single day. And one of the main reasons is because it's off social media. And as I was creating Iron 31, I felt a huge pull to not depend on social media, which is where my podcast kind of stemmed from, the Iron 31 podcast, because I wanted to meet women where they were at, but allow them a space to come without fearing comparison. And so our podcast is one avenue, but the community that I was originally talking about is our Iron 31 community. And it can be accessed through a link through my Instagram, but it's on what's called Circle Communities. And when the Lord was kind of tweaking and refining this vision of Iron 31, a big focus that we focus on at Iron 31 in our programs is comparison and shame, because a lot of women struggle with that. I mean, I would say most women, if not all, struggle with comparison in some form of fashion. And I've never compared myself as a mom because I'm not a mom yet. But I know that when I get there, that my flesh is going to want to go that route of comparison or looking at, avenues that I don't feel valuable and looking to someone where I think that they have value in that area that I feel invaluable. So ways that I have compared in my life up to this point is body image, is business. I think that's a huge one right now, especially being in the realm of business of look how big their business is, look how successful it is. What are they doing? Like how it's like they got this overnight. Another one that I've compared myself to is my home. Like I always love a nice, inviting, warm home to come home to and love, just having nice things in the home. But coming in early into adulthood, the furniture that you see on Pinterest probably doesn't fit your budget. So, and that's okay. I had to learn that the hard way, but Facebook Marketplace has been a great avenue for me. But anyway, the community that we have just really been nurturing is the Iron 31 community and that Circles community. And this is off social media. It is an online community, but it's getting women of all walks. And it's inviting women into a space, giving them free resources. For example, we have launched a devotional in Esther, and we also have a smaller devotional in Nehemiah. And these are free resources that I really want women to be able to use to either invite another woman into and study the Word of God together, or maybe they're using it as a resource to host a small group. But the point of this community is for women to come, be completely transparent, come without fearing comparison, come without fearing shame, come without fearing being triggered on social media or scrolling. It's truly a place to learn, to soak up some knowledge. I have some homemaking things on there, some things about sourdough, Bible revelations. Our Unshackled course is hosted on this. So when women come into this, they're not only getting community immediately, but they can work through the different resources that we have. And the space truly is to encourage, edify, and to give women a space to be vulnerable if they want to, but just be themselves. I think social media is it can be a great resource, but it's so circled around. I know we say it all the time, but like a highlight reel. And when we're in a state of comparison, like you're saying in the fourth trimester of like, it's so easy to get online and know where you want to be, whether it's in motherhood or in nursing or body image, as you're getting your body back to its original state prior to becoming pregnant. It's so easy to fall into that comparison trap. But when you're in a community of women who just want to come alongside you or who can meet you right where you are, that is so encouraging to have. And that's what our Iron 31 community is meant to do, and ultimately just point people to Jesus in every single aspect of their womanhood.
That is so great, because the fourth trimester is such a hard stage, right? Because you've just given birth to a baby, you've changed into a mom, and so you have to figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, everyone wants to see the baby, and so sometimes you feel put like on the back burner. They're like, "Let me hold the baby," and you're like, "But I gotta breastfeed, or I need to, or you just feel." You feel put aside, like everyone just wants to see the baby. So it was so nice when people are like, how are you? How are you doing? And it's just so nice. And I feel like your community has that they care about the moms, the women in that group, which is so lovely. And I know for like personally me in the fourth trimester with our first son, I had him a month before my birthday. And my birthday was coming up. And I remember people asked me, what do you want for your birthday? And I remember clearly saying, I don't want anything because I'm fat. Don't buy me chocolate because I'm trying to lose weight. Right. And you're like, I don't want new clothes, again, because I'm fat. Please don't buy me lingerie because I'm nursing and I'm just going to leak all over it. Right. And so you're just like, I want nothing. I want absolutely nothing for my birthday. So I recommend this to new moms. So I actually recommend the Fit Fab Fun box. It's a subscription box, and you can customize it to what you want. And so it's a lot of like beauty products. I feel like I wouldn't just go buy myself, especially in that fourth trimester, because you aren't going to spend money on yourself. But then I ended up getting some facials and some shampoos and some eyeliners, like in that first box. And it kind of brightened my day. I was like, ooh, new things have arrived, right? And so that made me feel better because it wasn't determined on my size that day. Right. And I also didn't feel like I'm just going to eat my whole cake and calories because I feel fat. Like, let's just be fat today.
I have heard of those but Sandy, say it again.
Fit, fab, fun boxes. I
Fit,
have to
fab,
say it
fun.
slow or I screw it up. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, every time. I have actually a little pouch that someone gave me from their Fit Fab Fun box, and that's like my makeup holder, and it is like my favorite thing. It's like fleece material, and it's super cute. And my cousin actually gets that box, and some of the cutest things come out of that. And it's just fun to, it's almost like you're getting Christmas morning delivered to your front door.
Yeah. And there's always like a surprise in there too of something. It might be something silly like a little chapstick, or I know one time cough drops were in there or something, right? It was an advertisement. But it's just I still keep it up today. My oldest is now 5. I still keep this up today because I feel like it's one things for me that I can have as a mom that I am not sharing with anyone in the house.
Yeah.
I am in a house of all boys, so I don't have little girls coming and stealing my stuff. But they'll sometimes be like, Mama, let's help you open your box. And I go, nope, this is Mama's box. And so I always open it by myself and put all the things away in my bathroom so no one can see them.
Yep. I love that. And it's so important to have those moments of just like owning not who you are, but like what you specifically are enjoying. And that's actually something recently that I just journaled through was, who are you? And it was the weirdest thing to journal about. Like, what do you mean who, like it? Because I always try to like listen to the nudges of where the Lord is taking me, or I'll ask the Lord a question during my devotional time, and then he'll take me throughout this journey of healing, revelation, conviction, all the fun things. And actually it was a couple of days ago. I say here recently, it was literally yesterday. And just this question of like, who are you? And it was so important because, and I can relate to it with business. We can get so caught up in our business because it's fun, it's passionate, it's you love to see the momentum, you love to be a part of the community, you love to see where it's going, do new things. But in the midst of that, if we're not careful, we can lose like who we are. And one of the greatest piece of advice that I've gotten in leadership is like the best thing that you can give the people that you're leading is yourself. Because when you are yourself, your people underneath you will feel safe. They will feel understood. They will also feel relatability when you come to the table and say like, I messed up or I'm struggling with this. But I think we can, again, I don't want to speak too soon because I am not a mother yet, but I feel like I can have this relatability even just in my womanhood or as a wife, as a leader in the company that I work for, as a coach. I think we, can try to show up too perfectly in the seat or the title or the hat that we're wearing, that we kind of start to lose parts of ourselves. So I love, like you said it so just like briefly, but I think it is so important and so awesome that you recognize like, I need to open this box because it just needs to be for me. Because then we start, letting things bleed into our personal lives and we kind of lose touch with who we are. And then before we know it, we don't know who we are as a wife, as a leader, as a mom, as a business owner. And those things just kind of become our title. But in leadership specifically, and as a business owner specifically, I know the Lord walked me through that because my identity was starting to become Ashley, the business owner, or Ashley X title in this business, and just reminding me and refining me of the basics. Like, this is who you are. Hone in on these, and the rest will just have momentum if you continue to be who you are in me. So I love that. I know that was like, I kind of took that so deep, but that's so cool that you open it by yourself, because it's just that physical representation of like, I still need to have just an aspect of me in motherhood.
No, and I love how you say that so much. Like, who am I? And I feel like that is a hard question to ask if you really don't think about it, because, you
Mhm.
know, years ago, I would have said, Bethany, I'm the speech therapist who is a manager of a nursing home, right? And then,
Mhm.
like, you go into Bethany, I am a speech therapist who works in schools,
Yeah.
or I am a mom to insert all your children's names, right? And
Mhm.
so it can be hard to be who I am. And I feel like as moms, very quickly within that toddler range, especially before they go to school, not saying necessarily not in school, but you lose who you feel you are, and you feel like you're just a mom that is making the lunches and doing everything for your kids. And I see that so much in moms, like especially when I was a manager, that their kids graduate, they go to college, they
Mhm.
would come back and work for me as a therapist. And you
Yep.
could just see they were just like, well, I'm not a mom today, but I haven't been a therapist for 18 years and I kind of don't know what I'm doing. And you just felt how much they were lost. And I feel like that's when like divorce happens, because no longer you have anything to talk about because your kids are gone to
Yeah.
college, and you lost your spouse
Mhm.
at the same time because you didn't devote time to your spouse. And so I know me and my husband specifically really try hard to have at least one date night a month. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're in the thick of it, one date night a
Yeah.
month is so great,
Yeah.
because you still need to date your spouse. And so we try to talk about other things going on, not just the kids. Now we might bring up like, oh, don't forget such and such has a dentist appointment tomorrow, right? Um, but you also need to talk about, still like your hopes and dreams. Like, we even took a vacation last year. We were only gone for like 4 days, but during that vacation, we had conversations about, we've just started a new business. What does that look like? What do we want that to look like in the next year? How are we going to grow that? How are our other businesses going to grow? Do we need to let something go? Right? What are our dreams? What do we want to accomplish? Are we going to pay for our kids' college? Like, that would be an awesome dream. And so I feel like sitting down and having those conversations with your spouse, continuing to get to know them, is always just so lovely.
Oh, absolutely. And I think too, like knowing who you are is not only important to know when you're showing up for these, hats that we wear, like
Mm.
wife, mother, leader, business owner, but also knowing how to deflect from them. So, like you just said, like with vacations, like we went on a vacation. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but it's like you get the opportunity to go on vacation. But if we've lost ourselves, we don't even know where to go. Like, what do I even enjoy? Do I enjoy hiking? Do I enjoy going to the beach? Do I enjoy, sitting and relaxing? What do I need in this season? Because when I, become a mother, I love hiking right now, but who's to say when I become a mother, I just want to lay on the beach all day, that may change during seasons, but I think it's so important to stay in tune with who we are so that we can show up who we are and these hats that we wear, but also it just reminds us of how to deflect, because if we're on all the time and we're just wound up, like we're going to spring out of control, or that's when we can get, I mean, in teaching, I can relate in that standpoint of like, that's when I lost patience with the students. That's when I wasn't on top of it on certain days with my teaching. That's when I just wanted to give work and stay behind my desk. Like, and that was what I didn't love. Like, I hated that style of teaching. But when we wound up, that's, we enter into these hats or into the roles that we play into our lives, not ourselves. And it can do more harm than good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One thing, since I do talk a lot about breastfeeding on here, and we were talking about body image. So of course we want to get back to our pre-baby weight, our pre-baby body, which, spoiler alert, it doesn't go back the same way. Our hips are just a little bigger, ladies, but that's okay. But, they always say nursing helps take off the weight. And I do agree with that. I don't disagree with that. Now, is it going to lose every pound? No, absolutely not. But, mamas, the thing I see a lot that I feel we're hurting ourselves is we're starving ourselves. And so, therefore, we aren't making enough milk or giving our babies enough of what they need, because we're like, oh, I'll just have a shake and then a salad and then a shake or something like that. So, mamas, please remember to hydrate. you don't hear anything else, please at least hydrate so much through the day, because the more water you take, the more breast milk you're going to make. But I'm not a nutritionist. So can you talk a little bit more about like maybe how many calories which we should have, kind of what we're looking for when we're a new breastfeeding mom?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so important to note that you, as a mom breastfeeding, are burning a lot of calories. I mean, it can range anywhere from 500 to 700 calories, depending on your breastfeeding schedule, how much you're nursing, how much you're producing. Like there's a wide range that, is dependent on that. But every woman is different. So our calorie intake needs are different, right? So I do nutrition coaching for business, and the difference, I will say that like people reach out and be like, hey, what do you think my calorie intake should be? And that really is a loaded question because it depends on our activity. It depends on our weight, our height, our age, our previous dieting history. Like I could type in a perfect formula, but if someone has been only eating 1,200 calories for a year, like that's where their metabolism is, no matter where the calculation stands. So it depends on so much. Dependent on how many calories you should be intaking. But what I will say is that if you do have a tool or a calculator to get at least your maintenance, it is important to add anywhere from 5 to 700. Again, it's different for every woman, but take that into consideration as you're eating of you are actually burning that many calories. And it is important that we do not put ourselves in a deficit. So what I've seen before is women will have their babies, but then they'll go back to what their fat loss calories are, but they're in much more of a deficit than they were prior to breastfeeding. They weren't breastfeeding prior in their original state. So then they'll be in a major deficit, maybe without realizing it. So, I mean, I would encourage you to focus on breastfeeding, focus on whole foods, nourishing your body rather than trying to get back to that prior pregnancy weight. And this has been, I'm not qualified as a mother yet to speak on the frustrations of getting back to your original body. But I can say that where my credibility stands is like, I've walked through a body image journey, and I actually have kind of the opposite. I was really, really, really skinny growing up, was told to eat a cheeseburger, was told to eat more. Guys, I've always been an eater. Like I can put some food away. So like having those comments, being called skinny, like, and then not really being able to change my body, it is frustrating. And it is frustrating to have your body be in a state that you don't want it to be in. But through that, the Lord has taken me on a journey and has closed my eyes to body image and has opened my eyes to the way my body functions. And as an adult getting closer and closer to motherhood, the Lord has just opened my eyes to how he's created our body. And as, I don't know why we didn't learn this in school, but as an adult, you start to learn about like your cycle and like the importance of your cycle and the importance of cycle tracking. And as I'm learning this as a woman, learning about my body, learning about just how it functions, the Lord helped me fall in love with my body, and it had nothing to do with appearance. So I would just say this to women in their fourth trimester. Again, I've not experienced a fourth trimester yet. So maybe I'll listen back on this when I am, but just focus on nourishment, because your body, the Bible says that our body is a temple, and the woman's body, all bodies are incredible, but I'm kind of biased. And I think the woman's body is absolutely incredible in what it is capable of doing. Like y'all just held life within you, delivered life, and now you are nourishing life. Like how incredible is it that our bodies have been designed to keep another human alive, and not only another human, but our own babies. And so I would focus on those things, but be aware of what your body needs and just take this time to be slow with getting back into a routine. Life's going to look wildly different, as I can imagine. Sleep patterns are going to look wildly different. So just focus on what your body needs rather than, I would say, what you feel like you need your body to look like. Because if we focus on what our body needs to look like, it could take the focus off of what our body needs, which could impact how our body's functioning.
Mm-hmm. No, that's so great. And to your point, for all of my breastfeeding mamas out there, I highly recommend having snacks next to your nursing chair. Wherever you're going to nurse, usually it's in one spot. At least I usually try to do one spot, usually two spots. My baby's nursery, and then also a place on the couch. But I always kept snacks right next to me. So I would keep like nuts, different proteins, certain granola bars, right? Anything that didn't need to be like refrigerated, high in protein, things that were really good for you. I tried. Don't get me wrong, Mama. I like my Oreos, so those were in the house too. But I like to keep those next to me while I was nursing, because then you're sitting there, you're captivated, you aren't going anywhere. So might as well eat a snack and drink, your whole 32 Stanley Cup, your Yeti, whatever we got going on, your Bubba's. And so go ahead and nourish yourself right then while you're also nourishing your baby. I think that's a perfect time to do it. So,
Yeah.
Well, Ashley, thank you so much for coming on. I super appreciate it. Why don't you just I know we've talked about it throughout the whole thing, but let the mamas know again one more time how they can connect with you and get in your community.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a few ways. And like I mentioned before, I use social media as a resource, but I am very adamant on getting people into our Iron 31 community. So you can access that link through my Instagram handle, which is Mrs.Rumpke. If you do not want to use social media, we also have a podcast called Iron 31 Podcast. If you type in Iron 31 Podcast or Ashley Rumpke, you will be able to find it. And that community is always tagged in our show notes, ready for people to join. And once you're in that community, then there are a slew of free resources. There's different groups that you can join. We have a group over Bible revelations. We have just a general group. We have a sourdough group. I could go all into that. And then we have a natural living and homemaking group. Homemaking, just a quick story of like, it's really just brought out a level of femininity that I kind of have been suffocating in my like boss babe age that I've just now laid to the side, which that's a whole nother podcast. But homemaking has brought out another level of femininity and brought me close to the Lord and the slowness that is required of it. So that's kind of why it's tagged into our community and what's kind of got our community come alive, which has been really cool. And then my biggest thing in the Iron community, which I just hope that everyone takes advantage of, is my program, Unshackled. It's a 13-section program, and it is all about digging to the roots in our lives so that we can fully walk in the design that God has created us to be. And a lot of the things that we are walking through or the trials that we see at surface level, there is a deeper root, and it creates toxic patterns in our lives. And this program is to help women get out of those toxic patterns or just life cycles. When I say toxic, I don't mean like harsh. I just mean like patterns that aren't really serving your life or thoughts that aren't serving your life. So it's a 13-section, all self-paced. It is also in the app and it's on my website, iron31.com, which is another way that you can see what all we offer. But if anything, join our community. Again, you can access it in my Iron 31 podcast show notes through my Instagram. Also on Facebook as well as Ashley Rumpke. But I would say I am most attentive in our Iron 31 community, my Instagram, and our podcast.
Awesome. I'm going to link all those below in my show notes so that you can also go listen to her podcast and all the things. So
Wonderful.
Thank you so much for coming on. I super appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for listening in. If you loved this episode, it would mean so much if you would share it with another mama or post on social media and tag me. I want to personally thank you for wanting to help other mamas. You got this. I'm rooting for your breastfeeding journey.